Welcome to the Nerdtastic in 3D podcast.
It's Nerdtastic in 3D. Oh, it's Nerdtastic in 3D. Yes, it's Nerdtastic in 3D. It's Nerdtastic in 3D.
Bong.
That's what happens when you sit around and just drink beers before the podcast, guys.
Oh, yeah.
You think about that.
Brought to you by Pacifico.
La cerveza del Pacifico.
I'm abstaining from podcast intro. I think our guy welcome back from China should intro.
What should I say? Hey, everybody. This is a podcast of industry professionals talking about some cool-ass shit. So, it's called Nerdtastic in 3D and all. My name's Sean Craney. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's Jason Pecho.
I'm Jack Eckler.
See, I like it.
I'm Jason Carter.
Adam McFarland.
Little counterclockwise action going on there.
And welcome to episode number 58, Cinco Ocho.
Do you actually... I mean, that's constantly in your brain what number we're on, or do you think, like, before
I literally
the
have to
podcast
think
starts?
of wrong. It's funny. I actually have to think of the wrong Spanish to say it. That's the best part of that. Like, I want to say it the correct
I
way.
say last
No, I
time?
want to say it the correct way, and I go, no, I actually have to break the numbers up in Spanish.
I'd like to provide a challenge to you, which is that from 60 to 70, you do it in Latin.
That's a dead language.
My
That's a
younger
dead
no. My
language.
younger sister, though, in high school was all about it. It was like in Latin honors, and I was like, okay, so they honor you for speaking a dead language.
I think Roman
She goes,
numerals.
no, it's serious business.
Let's do Roman numerals. We're high enough that
it's
they
tough.
get weird.
Do they have a different pronunciation?
No, it's more than just like VI. It's like VI, Vixie.
Is it like
Vixi-
Vixicum?
Yeah,
No,
you gotta.
it's- Roman numerals are pronounced in Latin. Huh? So just
So
go
Pecco's
there.
going to take that challenge
Done.
and run with it.
Done.
No, I made that up.
We are 3 men down this evening.
We are.
We're missing a Josh LeBrat, a Sean Kearney, and a Sean Fennell. 2 Seans and a Josh.
And a guest. Speaking of
Who's
guests,
having a
what the
guest?
hell? I look at you because you're next to me. I can look at anybody. Pecco hasn't been there. We need a damn good guest. You know what, people? If you're listening to this show, actually listening to us, go put on Facebook, put somewhere a guest you want to see on the show. And honestly, I don't care who it is. Literally, it could be a movie star. It
happened
could
to
be
Brendan
anybody.
Fraser?
Well, that's still
Say
happening.
the same thing.
That's
Steven
still
Spielberg.
happening.
Nice. Hey,
I wanna
we
hear
do
some
have
guest
we do have a
ideas.
guest today.
We have a call out to Brendan Fraser.
Well,
a yellow,
Pecco's here.
a yellow
It's a-
box of Pacifico.
Is
is our
it in
guest
the frame?
today.
It's like heavy in the frame.
Yeah, it's good.
We're reaching out to them to see about sponsoring us. Hold on. This is completely just towards Jack, and I'm going to forget. We might have a bar sponsorship for our softball team.
I love how we couldn't keep ours for the show, but we have one for our
Can we
softball
can we
team.
get a bar sponsorship for
I don't
the
know.
podcast team?
We had one. We lost it because we're not.
don't know.
What's the classification that we aren't?
We got LeBravo.
Non-profit?
We got
Non-profit.
LeBravo.
We should,
Bravo.
We're not a non-profit. We're a no-profit.
guys. I'm going to sponsor our podcast team and bring in a 12-pack of beer once.
I like where your
whenever
head's
I
at.
feel like it.
I like where your head's at.
Once non-consistent times.
I'm trying to think right now whether to start the show on a high note, like it has already,
It's
or
pretty. It's
I'm back, baby.
or to drop us down and then build us back up.
What
do you think?
I have found that
I like breaking us
getting
down
the bad
sometimes.
news out of the way first is good. Usually means that we can end on a high note, which is very satisfying.
Okay, well I'm gonna
Hold on.
start.
I think the goal overall, though, is to go as long as we can without actually talking about it.
I agree. So let's give it another 50, 60
let's
minutes.
let's keep
and then
talking
we'll-
about
50 or
policy
60.
of Nerdtastic in 3D and what our
Our policies.
maybe what our 2013, because we're just
Goals.
starting the fiscal quarter.
I have a new-
We are just into the new fiscal quarter.
unlimited vacation
I
time.
was unaware that you knew what a fiscal quarter
guys. The
was.
only reason I know is because my roommate used it as an excuse not to work out one.
That's pretty
I'm
brilliant.
guessing that was Bryce.
Is that
It
Gooch?
was.
Hey,
Totally,
shout out to
totally.
you, Gooch.
He also doesn't listen to the podcast.
So it's easy to pick on him. So if anybody's sitting in the second quarter, good for you. As it turns out, we all are. I got to do it because it was actually a tremendously shitty day for a lot of our compadres in the gaming world and for people who love the Star Wars franchise and gaming. LucasArts.
I would argue any gamer who has a lot of nostalgia for the 90s.
Oh, but absolutely.
Anybody who likes stuff too.
LucasArts is no longer Disney, after their acquisition of everything Lucas, took it upon themselves to basically shut them down. In process, shut down 2 projects. One that I know off the top of my head was 1313, and the other, somebody can mention before I pull it up. You can. Star Wars First Assault.
Well,
Prior to that, they were Beasts of the 90s, and actually, I think what was the earliest one? It was God, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter?
yeah,
TIE Fighter was my
TIE Fighter was
earliest.
my first.
No, it
foray.
was their first project?
Yeah.
No, it had to have been way back in the Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis days. I mean, that stuff was those point-and-click adventure pixel-based games, the Dig, any of those old-school adventure games had to have been their first.
Hold on.
We can look it up.
First adventure game.
I do want to mention, though, real
Indiana
quick.
Jones and the Last Crusade, that's my guess.
Any other guess?
First game.
Labyrinth.
Labyrinth. What's their...
1986.
Okay. Ooh, 80s.
87, they did a game called Deja Vu. Indiana Jones was in 89. They did an Alien and the Mind Benders. Monkey Island was in 90.
This does seem to stick, though, with Disney's sort of mantra with gaming. And Jason, you could talk about this and what they've done in the past. And
Yeah,
it's
I think
very
I will.
actually similar to to what DreamWorks does. A lot of studios do, where they basically want to go into licensing partnerships, which honestly could be good or bad, depending on how they look at it in the studios who get a hold of their titles. But what it does is it lets them consolidate a studio that was doing okay, but probably had a lot of overhead and downtime, that they say, you know what, we don't need the studio to make money. And that's what we do. We don't need a game studio, DreamWorks, to make licensed games of our film. And Disney has tended to do that in the past. I'm sad to see it go, but the business side of me sees why they did it. So I don't know, Jay, what do you think?
Well, I mean, first of all, I did read a few different articles, and some articles did say that like the fates of those games are unknown, but probably 90% chance that they're going to get killed. So I got to see 1313 at E3 last year, and it looked amazing. It looked like it was going to be an awesome game. I don't know how far through development they were, so depending on if did they hit some snags, and I mean if they were like 80% of the way through development, I can't imagine that, and it was fun. I can't imagine they would cancel it.
I'd say 80%. Yeah, they'd ride that one out.
But I don't know. We haven't internally we haven't really heard too much. But as far as what you're saying, I think. Disney has a couple internal studios. Wide Load in Chicago. They were traditionally a console studio. They've been essentially converted to a mobile studio. Their last game was Avengers Initiative on iOS. The other big thing is the Infinity thing, and so I think Disney's really hedging its internal development on Infinity and in mobile, and the external stuff they just kind of want to do through licensing and not manage another studio. So what you're saying, I think, is exactly right. And Bob Iger said it. The focus of the Star Wars franchise for Disney is going to be on social and mobile.
Interesting. Jason?
For me, it's just it is a tremendous sense of loss, only in that for me, gaming absolutely started with the point-and-click adventure games of LucasArts. And Sierra Online, Sierra and LucasArts were the only games, really, I played all the way up, honestly, until late 90s. I mean, that was it for me. There was the occasional, Super Nintendo game I might play a little bit, but it was pretty much that was it. I mean, I'm a huge fan of adventure games and the classic adventure games, and they have an incredible nostalgic place in my heart. And I think it's incredibly sad looking at what LucasArts, their history, how far they've fallen, because truthfully, I get it from a business standpoint. I mean, if I'm being 100% honest, the stuff that LucasArts has put out, none of it's been super enticing lately. There's been little blips and things that they've been involved with that have been great. I actually think the
Lego
franchise, their blips into that have been really, really good. But there's not a lot of original.
Did the studio do those, or did they license those out? Right?
Yeah, they licensed them.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all done by the Telltale.
No, I think that the
Traveler's Tales.
Yeah, Traveler's
Thank
Tales.
you. I always get those two mixed up. But so it's incredibly sad for a number of reasons. One, that's the company that made so many of the games that I loved, and I go back to occasionally. Get emulators and still play. Curse of Monkey Island, I've mentioned before on the show, is still one of my absolute favorite games ever, and will continue to be so. I have the soundtrack on my iPhone, and it's really sad. I think it's understandable given the lack of direction and excitement that's come out of that company lately. And by lately, I mean the last 10 years.
Yeah, I would say Rogue Squadron would have been the last one I bought on the N64. So it's been some time.
Did you guys play?
Well, Galaxies failed, and that was potentially going to be huge for them. I remember that, which was their.
But I think that wasn't Galaxy
They're massive.
externally developed?
Well, their MMO, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think so. I don't know.
Did you guys play the? It was an Indiana Jones original story. Indiana Jones and like the
On the Xbox?
Emperor's Tomb.
On
I
the
think it
Xbox?
was.
Is that the one on the Xbox?
Yes.
I played that one.
Yeah,
was
and
fun.
It was good.
It was a lot
It
of
was
fun.
good. The mechanics were fun. The story was great.
Yeah.
They hit that like archaeology kind of like.
Well, they had a really good like
mysterious
whip,
feel.
like how much you use the whip and
Yeah.
how you use the whip, and that was really cool.
Yeah, I think that's the last game for me that I really
Actually, that was probably me too.
really got into from them. I think.
I think mine was TIE Fighter.
That was probably my first one.
I mean, a lot because I think a lot of their games that they've released were on PC and Xbox, and I've been
a lot of
mostly-
PC.
Yeah, and I've been mostly a console and then Sony player. So like a lot of those titles, especially like Rogue Squadron, which I've heard is a super awesome game.
Oh, have you never played that?
I've never played it because I
You
never.
got to
had a
find an
64.
emulator, dude, or just get on a 64. That's
Wow,
it's
this
still
is-
pretty awesome, man.
this is-
With that controller, even it's really cool.
I should expect nothing less, but it already says LucasArts Entertainment LLC was an American video game developer
On Wikipedia? Yeah.
It's the biggest thing in general is this. As of recent, the number of artists being let go in the U.S. is what's sort of the bigger picture to this is just sort of mind blowing. I didn't mean to cut you off, Adam. Like in your thoughts on this whole thing.
No. I mean, it would be all just echoing the same kind of thing that.
So in the last, nope, that's not by date. Never mind. Keep going.
Well, I think this is. I mean, these jobs aren't getting outsourced though. Like it's just. I mean, it's still sad.
It kind of is because, but it takes like the bigger
guess so.
it takes all the overhead away.
Yeah.
They don't
I
need
guess,
to
yeah,
rent a
if
building.
if
They
the
don't need to
artists
own
don't
a
make-
building.
yeah.
They don't need to pay insurance to employees. It's all overhead costs that I guarantee they looked at and said, we can cut that and still make profit.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go really fast, but I'm gonna read through the games that they've produced and made in the last 10 years. Okay, Armed and Dangerous 2003, Gladius 2003, Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb 2003. That was 10 years ago. RTX Red Rocks 2003, Secret Weapons over Normandy 2003, Star Wars Rogue Squadron, Star Wars Galaxies, Star Wars Jedi Knight, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars Galaxies, Star Wars Battlefront, Star Wars Knights of the Old Wrath Unleashed, Lego Star Wars, Mercenaries Playground of Destruction, Star Wars Galaxies Episode 3, Star Wars Battlefront 2, Star Wars Episode 3, Star Wars Republic, blah, 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 Star Wars. The list goes on and on and on until Thrillville in 2006. Then some more Star Wars, then Thrillville 2007, then Fracture, which we've talked about on the show, was 2008. And then more Star Wars, Lucidity in 2009. Tons of Star Wars, connection back to the old Monkey Island games, the Tales of Monkey Island in 2009. More Star Wars, Angry Birds Star Wars, Connect Star Wars in 2012, and that's it. They literally have, in my opinion, I can say this, working where I do, Disney went through a period of time where they took some of their beloved characters, their beloved franchise, and they dragged the names and the stories and the characters through the mud by making sequels and spin-offs and things that just were lower quality, didn't warrant sequels, and to me that is what LucasArts became. They became a place to try and make money for using Star Wars for Lucasfilm, and it fell apart. It was boring. It was the same thing. I mean, people out there could argue. Sorry,
No, go ahead.
People out there could argue The Force Unleashed 1 and 2 were some gorgeous-looking games and some big, big attempts at reigniting passion for that franchise in a video game universe. But so much damage had been done by the countless Star Wars video games they'd seen. That's all it was. At E3, I saw Force Unleashed 2. I saw it when it was coming out. I thought, man, the cinematics and the animation.
It's one of the best ones I had seen,
was
and I can't
gorgeous.
tell you when.
And they freaking nailed the look of that main actor. Like, it looks just like him, and it was amazing stuff. Mocap was great, and guess what? I couldn't care less because it was another Star Wars game that they had done.
And from what I hear, the Force Unleashed games the gameplay just wasn't.
But
Quite there.
but what I did like is I thought they were trying to be, and what I was going to say, Jay, is I thought they were actually in those games in particular, I'm glad you called out, were pushing engine stuff. And actually from a dev jam, I was curious what you think. I thought they were actually trying to push some innovative stuff with the forces and actually how you even played the game. Like that's when we saw a lot of the gameplay trailer stuff, that's what actually intrigued me. I'm like, they're going actually outside the box to give a little more different gameplay experience than just what they had done. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, what sort of pissed me off is the things that were really good for them very early on, like TIE Fighter and Rogue Squadron, they never got back to another fucking flying game, which they were really good at. They were really good at, and those games sold because they're like Need for Speed. Yeah. People like racing games and flying games. Yeah. But they never got back to that. They saw some kind of path in third-person shooters that I don't think ever in RPGs that never really came to anything.
Again, a game that I've never played, but like everybody I know that are big gamers like loved KOTOR, like just loved it so much, you know. And then I guess I don't know if they ever made a sequel, maybe they did, but it wasn't so well received if they did.
What's the first one there?
What's that?
Ball Blazer was their
Commodore
first game.
64.
Oh, Ball Blazer was their
Ball
first
Blazer
one?
in 1984.
Damn it, I gave wrong information earlier.
Oh, they did Labyrinth, the computer game. How about that?
See, that's what I said. I just said that earlier.
Did you? Well, no one listens to you.
Another studio. Should we move on to the next set of bad news?
Yeah.
More
Go ahead,
studios.
keep it going. Like I said, we're gonna bring it down.
Right,
we're gonna bring it down a notch.
Square Enix LA.
Yeah.
Gone.
Now, anybody know, is there any tie to the performance of the latest Tomb Raider?
I think the latest Tomb Raider has actually performed a lot better than they expected.
Well, let's talk about titles they've done. Name some titles at Square Enix. Pull those out.
The Final Fantasy titles are all Square Enix.
They are Square Enix.
Yeah.
So the difference between Square and Square Enix, is there any kind of difference?
I don't know. I think Square might be just another name people call Square Enix, but I could be wrong on that.
I believe here we can find out. I believe Square is what it used to be called, and then it was bought out by somebody.
And they added the Enix.
Yes,
onto
they
it.
did. The original
exactly
Square
what it
Enix was formed as the result of the merger between Square and Enix. There you go. The merger occurred on April 1st, 2003, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
From this last Monday.
I mean, in my mind, Square Enix is most popular for the Final Fantasy series, and then because Eidos released had been creating Tomb Raider Eidos had published Tomb Raider because it was Crystal Dynamics that created it, and then Square Enix had bought Eidos.
In particular with that Studio White, for me it hits home, and Jay brought up tonight that he hadn't even noticed before, is when you come into and this is anybody, if you'd come into LA and depending on how you pulled off to get down on Lincoln or which way you were going to leave LAX when you fly into LA, the Square Enix building is right there. It's actually at the entrance almost to LAX, and a huge sign, and if you're a game fan, you're like, sweet, dude, I'm like in LA, and it's fucking games and movies and shit.
Yeah.
That's like your first kind of thing, so that's kind of interesting.
Tell the viewers.
It says
Wikipedia's got some
November,
weird stuff in here.
Yeah, this can't be right. It says that they're somehow related to Call of Duty Black Ops 2.
They actually... No, I thought maybe the first... Because I know the first one got so far behind that they had started to farm out some work.
Modern Warfare 3?
I don't know what's happening now.
I'm just going to...
I don't know what's happening. My whole world has been shifted.
It's just a list of random games.
Yeah, I was just going to say, dude, I saw some 007 in there.
I'm going to throw a quick advert in here. If anybody knows anybody who is let go from Square Enix and is looking to get into mobile, shoot me an email.
If anybody,
Jason would really like to hire you from his personal salary, is what he's saying.
If anybody from knows anybody from LucasArts, don't have them call Jason.
Yeah.
Well, maybe just to reminisce.
Yeah, because they probably don't want to work for Disney.
It's just such a horrible time
That's what I'm thinking.
to be an artist.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
even
just
game
a
development
bad
in general.
time.
Like, how many artists, programmers, producers, and sound in general, so many studios are closing. Like High Moon let people go. Like it's like a.
But what's sad is like Disney they're still going to want to make the games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So a studio still needs to be going. It's like what's going to happen? Are they going to come down to just like there's two? There's Ubisoft, like 5. Ubisoft, EA, Activision, Epic,
Microsoft.
maybe Raven, and Microsoft, and that's it. If you try to start up, you're doomed to fail.
I think we're destined to see something interesting in the next year. which is an influx of indie games.
Yeah.
Whether that be to XBLA
That
or
sell well?
PSN or no, just a ton of them.
Okay.
Mobile, whatever it is. I think a lot of the people being let go, not just from games, but even from artists from the animation visual effects world, are going to find solace in the idea of interactive games. There's a really low threshold for entry now, incredibly low threshold for entry, and I think that we're going to see an influx of them. It's going to be a ton.
Probably a little bit of that, like, well, now I've got a little bit of time on my hands. They've let me go. They've given me some kind of severance. I might as well.
Yeah.
Like,
I
there's
get
gonna be
that. I get that. And I don't like. I
Download Unity.
You want to see that, but I'm still curious. I don't know. I guess I personally, I feel like there is a lot out there right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's tough even for the indie guys because I'm sure at as many indie guys as are out there who say, "No, I'm just doing this for fun. I want it to." The other percentage of, and even those guys, I guarantee at some core, wished and hoped it does really well.
Oh, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
they take off and that becomes
Well,
your baby. And
I think, like, I have a lot of friends who worked for bigger companies and, outside of layoffs, left on their own accord because they saw an opportunity to make the games that more aligned
They
with
wanted
what
to
they
make.
wanted to make.
Sure.
But also because of the way, especially on mobile, the way that the audience is, like, it is like winning the lottery, but still, like, there's that chance that your game is going to take off. And, like, look at Tiny Wings.
And if it takes off, you're set for life.
Yeah, like the guy who made Tiny Wings made it by himself, and he's a multimillionaire. And he made a game for his girlfriend. It was a beautiful game, and it was fun, but he, nonetheless, he made it by himself. So.
yeah.
Should we get to some happier news?
That's okay. What you have up right now to me is still weird. The full circle of our friendship.
Agreed.
It took me a while to really put that together. But it did right before you even brought it up to me. Like,
Yeah,
go ahead. Share this though.
We've talked about the unfortunate happenings of DD closing, of Rhythm and Hues filing for bankruptcy.
Well, DD's still open.
Florida, sorry, DD
Yeah.
Florida. Rhythm and Hues filing for bankruptcy. About DreamWorks laying off people. It's been a rough time in the animation world as well. Rhythm and Hues, I don't believe it's 100% official all the way around yet, but rumor has it, or I guess the courts have accepted the idea that a certain company, American company, has purchased Rhythm and Hues, has bought them. That company is Prana Animation Studios, which
Coincidentally,
happens to be a partner studio of mine that I work at, which we do some work with. But the interesting part of it is Prana is an American company. They have an office in Santa Monica. I don't know much about it, but I believe there's a few offices there. And then they're mainly an animation powerhouse in Mumbai, India.
I need to get more info. A friend I work with, his wife is still at Rhythm and Hues. She's a map painter, and I overheard him talking today. I was going to stop him to try to get some more info for the show. Something about like they're banking on the insurance runs out that the company's paying for like on the 12th of this month, and then nobody really knows what's happening. The only problem I see with this, so Rhythm and Hues won the Oscar this year for visual effects. Rightfully so, hands down. If you've seen Life of Pi, the fucking Tigers, you can't tell. You just can't. The people who did that were here. India Studio buys it, say for the name, fires everybody here. You will not win another Oscar. Buying the name doesn't do that. Buying the name doesn't get the studio to approve you a budget to do another film.
No, but what buying the name does is it allows you to enter the door. Studios
Of
will
course.
now allow you in the door.
Of course.
That is super valuable.
It is. You still need product.
Sure, I get that. And that name's only good for you for the first 2 times you enter the door.
Absolutely.
You have to prove something after that.
Absolutely.
But I'm just saying, I don't want to say it's priceless, but there's a high dollar amount that you could pay if you're a company that's based on getting work, visual effects company type of thing, getting work from other studios, from other content creators to actually produce work. There's a high dollar amount you can put on the value of easier access to those content creators.
You could, but I could tell you as being a top studio exec who would be in if I was in those meetings, who was going to have to pick what studios I'm hiring to do this, which we're in LA. Everyone out here is in the know about this kind of crap. Rhythm Hughes walks in. I would be flat out to tell them, am I getting the staff from El Segundo, California? Or am I getting the staff from Piranha in India? And they say, well,
What do you want to pay for?
I was about to go into a really bad Indian accent, but I felt that might be racist. So I'm going to, and offensive, so I'm going to say exactly. Like, well, and they'll say that. At some point, though, it goes back to like how we apply for jobs. How me and you apply for jobs is different than, well, Jay's actually there a little bit, but it's different than how Adam would apply for jobs. Your wife would apply for jobs. Mine would. And it's kind of different. We could send a resume to all these places, and they're like, sure. Our work dictates. At the end of the day, dude, they could be like, dude, I love this guy. Let me see your demo reel. At some point, I have to put something in front of them. They can't use Life of Pi now, unless they still have the El Segundo going. Now, they could use certain partnered projects that happen here at the studio.
That's an interesting question. Let's say,
I don't know if it goes that
hypothetically,
route, though,
can they
but-
do that? Like legally, if they were to actually shut down the location, not the studio, but the location that created that material, they can legally still say, we are the company, not the studio, but the company responsible for Life of Pi.
Probably depends.
Can they?
Now,
I'm
you
sure they
as an
could.
exec,
Yeah.
Ethically,
Can
they? They could.
I think they
Ethically
can.
versus legally.
I think that's the question.
Well, I mean, ethically. I mean, I could say on...
Ethically,
and
they
you-
shouldn't.
and you-
Legally, they probably can.
you
They
as an
own the company.
executive,
They
if you're-
own the intellectual property of that company. If Rhythm and Hughes...
No, you're right. It's an IP issue. It's an IP. You're right.
It depends on the deal they worked out. Does the company name keep any of those things? But I think it's an ethic versus legal issue versus
I wonder...
anything else.
Knowing and having met John Hughes when I worked there...
Of
I
Rhythm and Hughes?
Yes.
Nice.
I cannot picture him handing over any... I mean, outside of obviously the names in the deal, handing over complete IP. Now, I don't know. It would behoove Piranha, honestly, to keep the company afloat here in El Segundo because of the level of artists that's here in California. Vancouver deals with the same problem. London deals... L.A. has some of the best artists in this industry, hands down. And you won't be able to talk to an exec in
some of the best.
some of the best.
Even
But you would still, they would argue in other countries that they would have a tough time fighting that they have the best, to be honest, because they come here to poach our guys all the time. So I can't picture India, if they want to stay in that game and get those big projects, dumping that talent pool. Maybe they will. Dude. I don't know. Maybe they did. They bought it for the name and they want to get in the door. But unless you have that talent pool, I don't see how they can even stay competitive, even at a price game. Because the studio, in the first real session where they show executives, like you have to do when you do 3D work, they get canned. They just get dumped.
even if they had gotten the IP, like if whoever's responsible for hiring them doesn't ask the question, like, hey, how many of the people from El Segundo did you retain? Then they deserve the work they get, right?
Yeah.
So we done talking about bad shit.
I thought that was kind of good. I mean,
Hey, what
Rhythm
happened
and
to your
Hughes
phone?
stays-
I got it. Don't worry.
It's
Rhythm and Hughes stays open. That's
well,
I
but
guess
we
I
don't know if it does. We don't know if it does.
Way to
Jason's
jump-
predicting
way to jump
it.
to the positive, though.
So when next week, Rhythm and Hughes shuts his door finally, we
Look,
go to Jason. We're
guys,
like, you
I like-
son of a bitch.
I like to think of the glass as 10% full.
Yeah.
So let's take it up a notch. Let's talk about Jason Pecho being back in the United States of America.
What's up, y'all?
I can't believe they let you back in.
I know they almost didn't. That's not true. They did.
GD terrorist.
Jason, where did you go and why are you back?
So I've been gone for 2 weeks.
Not why did you go?
Who is
why
your
the hell
mother?
did you come back?
Who is your father? What does he
Who
do?
is your
What does he
dad?
do? It's not a boomer. I was in Beijing, China for a week 2 weeks ago. I went there on business.
Crazy round eye.
That is so offensive.
Accurate.
That's crazy round eye who look like a Kuza.
After that comment, Nerdtastic in 3D will be filing for bankruptcy.
We already are
Which we
bankrupt.
don't
I had to
have.
do it
We
one
already
time this show.
bankrupt. What?
Interestingly enough, I was told that most people in China who have tattoos are criminals. So
You fit right in.
I fit right in. No, I was in
You
Beijing,
went
China.
shirtless. A
I-
lot.
What's that?
You went shirtless in Beijing. Just to show everything off.
I didn't want to, you know.
As he does in every show.
I wear a size B, bro.
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 A bro's ear.
Bro's ear. Man's ear. Yeah, so I was in China. That was like a super awesome experience for me. I've never been to China. I've traveled a little bit. I've been to Europe. I've been to Australia. Never been to China. Beijing was super cool. It reminded me a little bit of Blade Runner, and I think that's what Blade Runner is like based
at night,
off of.
dude. With the sky, have you seen Skyfall?
Yes.
Skyfall shows it off. It looks like, and you're like, oh, that's all CG. It isn't.
No,
though, is
it's
it?
not. And like even the traffic, I think was the biggest thing. Like if you think LA's got bad traffic, go to Beijing because like there was one night where it was raining, and so we couldn't. The whole cab was like fogged up, and you couldn't see out except you can just see like the glowing brake lights. And I swear to God, we must have been like, they have lane markers. They're not used, and we were just like swerving left and right, and then all of a sudden we were at a light, and our cab driver like turned to the right around the car in front of us, and like pulled up onto a curb, and then like pulled around him and went in front of the guy in front of us, and we were literally like sticking out into an intersection, and then a guy pulled up next to us, and then it was a red light, and he like saw an opening, gunned it to the center of the intersection, waited at the center of the intersection, and then waited till the light turned green and went on. Like, there, as far as I can tell, there's no rules. There's no rules.
Mr. Decker, he say you Blade Runner. I had to get one quote in.
But yeah, it was a good time. I ate some really cool food, really good food, really weird food.
Yeah, how is the orange chicken?
The orange chicken there is just amazing.
What about the Beijing beef?
Is the Panda Express there different than here?
Because I love the Beijing beef. At
You know, actually, the biggest fast food I saw out there was KFC. It's all
Really?
over the place. All over the place. Saw a few McDonald's. Saw a few.
So did
Burger
they
King.
have like the
they have
Taco
Skyfall,
Bells?
Did they have the did you see any of the huge animated signs? It's very much like Blade Runner. That's so insane to me.
It's like so Beijing separated in the rings. Like the center of the city is the Forbidden City where the emperor used to live and stuff, and then it goes out in rings. And the part that we were in, you know, like there's just a lot of neon in general, but there wasn't like the big crazy signs. We went to another part which is more my speed, which is a lot of bars and restaurants and stuff. And in that area, they had a lot more neon and a lot more lights and stuff. But
So you posted a picture, dude. Not only were you there, you also rocked the Great Wall.
I was told that if you go to Beijing and don't go to the Great Wall, you're an idiot. You know,
your
like
hand cut off.
And
God forbid a criminal like you wouldn't go to the Great Wall.
I was, I was wearing a coat, so nobody could tell. But
Nobody could
it
tell.
truly is like a mind blowing sight. Like I thought, I remember I like to travel, so I was like thinking about where I would want to go before this came up. And I was like, there's one place I probably will never, ever get to, but I will always want to, and that's a Great Wall. And I had the opportunity to do it this time, and it was so cool. Like, you look to the right, and it just goes on forever. You look to the left, and it just goes on forever.
When you walk up, I mean, is there a section like that you're literally down at the base of the Great Wall?
So the Great Wall's up.
So you can actually see the scale, like how high of a wall this is? And
Yeah,
all
they're like, so the place that we were on, and I don't know if it's like this everywhere because it's 20,000 miles long, but we basically
give or take.
Yeah, like we like drove up a hill through like the country, and then you get to like the touristy parking area, and then you walk up to basically you could walk up there, which would take a long time. You could take a like cable car, or you could take like a ski lift, and so like the cable car
To get to the top of the wall?
Yeah, to get to the top of the
Like
wall.
literally just up onto the wall.
But
Dude, I thought
the
this thing was like 12 feet.
No, it is. But the wall, so the wall is on top of like almost a mountain.
Okay.
You know, so the and it just makes sense, right? You're trying to defend your country, you put it at that wall at the highest point, you know,
Sure,
in the
sure.
place. And so we took the ski lift up, and when you get to the top, then there's like a trail outside of the wall that you can stand next to and see like the extent of the wall. And I bet you the wall is like 25, 30 feet tall in most places, and then there's like the guardhouses every 1,000 meters or something, and those are bigger. They look more like houses. And then to get down, you can either take the ski lift and be boring, or you can take
bouncy
the
houses.
toboggans. Oh yeah!
I saw the picture and I was like, it's like alpine sledding up in the
No.
Smoky Mountains,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Wait, what?
So there's like these it's like a metal chute that swerves around.
I was
and you have
joking
this-
when I was like
No,
some
no.
kind of bouncy house
Dude,
sled thing.
it's like Gatlinburg in Tennessee. They have the same damn thing. It's alpine that have
Yeah,
a
they had
brake.
a brake that
You
you
push
sit-
forward to go fast, and you pull back to slow
Just
down.
my luck. I have an old Chinese lady in front of me who's going 1 mile an hour, and so
Did
I
you
have
push
to,
her?
I couldn't. Like she had her brake on, and those brakes work. So I I would wait for like 5 minutes and then like just stop.
How long is this thing?
It's probably like a 5 to 7 minute ride.
20,000 miles, Adam. You heard him.
No, it's probably less than that. It's probably a 5 minute ride at the most.
This is awesome.
But if you can go like. There's there's dudes standing all along the thing, and if you're going too fast, they'll be like, slow down, but they're mandated to say that. They don't really give a shit. And if you go really fast, I imagine you could potentially shoot off the chute.
You do. And I got an amazing story about that, dude. Go ahead and finish, because I got to come back to the alpine sledding, dude.
Yeah, so Great Wall of China was awesome. I got to eat some really awesome food. That the specialty in Beijing is roast Beijing duck, and I've never had like
duck.
Officially,
I'm sorry,
I've had duck.
Panda doesn't have that.
Is roast Beijing duck orange chicken?
It kind of looks like
fair,
that.
it's fair, Jason. We can't wait for Jason to go.
What was his joke?
It was
I'm
delicious.
Actually really disappointed.
It was delicious.
Hey, so before we jump back to sledding, I don't know if you gathered this while you were there. Did you meet all 20,693,000 people that live in Beijing? The world's 26th most populous, most
I
populated.
hate that he just keeps Wikipedia up now all the
or
time.
fourth by density. Also, by the way, did you meet any Han?
There's 98%.
Han Solo?
Han ethnic groups, 96% of which.
He probably did.
Makes up the population.
He probably did meet some Hans.
But did you meet
and
did you meet anybody of Mongol descent, which is 0.3% of the population?
I think we
Monks.
may have
They're called
when we went to
monks.
the Great Wall. They were storming the
Yeah,
wall.
they were on the other side looking up, going, we
this
have no gondola. Fuck you.
This is wall related. Have you seen the picture that's the wall at the sea? Like the moment where the wall they just stopped building the sea, where you could just take a canoe and go around it, and you're like, "Fuck you, wall. I'm on the other side.
I'm on the mainland, baby.
There was a moment when you were like, you can look to the right and see the wall goes on forever. I thought you were going to say, and you look to the left and it was like 30 feet. And it
Did you have actual business meetings there? Like, were you
we
there
spent
for
At
legit
the wall,
reason?
or
At the wall, yeah. No, we
On
were
the
there
toboggans.
working with a developer who's using our code, and I basically was training them up on that.
How was
So-
that? How was actually? Did you have like just?
We had a translator.
Uh-huh.
If we wouldn't have had a honestly, that's the other thing is like it was such a good experience for me. I think because we had a translator, but very few people in China speak good English. So
do you speak good English?
I speak great English. Like I feel like I knew how to say
Right.
hello and thank you in Chinese.
You bow.
And no. But like
So
I feel like that was like
Say
the
it. How do you do
extent to what most people
Say it.
knew.
Say
Say
something.
some Mandarin.
Ning hao and
Is what?
is hello.
Okay.
And shei shei is thank you. And bukashe is you're welcome. I learned that in China.
Yeah.
How do you say?
And
Give me
fapiao
some.
is Bill.
Beijing duck.
Bill?
Bill.
Is what?
Bill.
What
Like,
is-
give me the bill.
What's the word?
Fapiao.
Oh, not just like, hey, Bill.
Yeah.
No, not the name. I'm sure there's tons of
He
people
learned-
named Bill.
He learned one name over there. And it was
And it's
the
Fapiao.
Chinese version of Bill.
I love that guy.
No,
He's
it-
amazing.
It actually means invoice.
How was the working environment compared? You were at a studio, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
so we were working with this actually I don't know if I can say who we're working with yet.
you're working with a studio.
A studio. But we're basically there in a high rise. They have 2 floors. They're a big company of like 400 people, and we're working with like a studio within that company. And their setup was honestly a lot like ours. Like they were in a room. They had like 15 people in there, all had their own desks, but
They
they were
were
all
chained
connected.
to it.
They were chained to their desks.
Much like this.
But it was amazing too because China is so well known for piracy. A lot of the developers' computers were not connected to the internet. They had their USB ports sealed off, so people can't come in and,
Oh, really?
and stick USB keys in there.
Define sealed off. Like
Like-
they didn't function, or like there's bubble gum in it.
I don't.
I think they've come up with a more advanced substance than bubblegum.
I don't know. I didn't.
Jason's techniques
Maybe
are foolproof.
Some kind of wax situation, maybe.
But I was like, how do you guys
So they don't
work
surf the
without
internet.
access to Google? What do you do when you don't know how to do something? And
What do
they
they
were
do?
like, we have one computer that has internet access.
So they all line up. And they all line up
yeah,
and
if
take
somebody's
turns.
on it.
On
Yeah.
a serious note, it's a legitimate question because a big portion of software engineering now is you're stuck on a problem, and rather than going and chatting with everybody, you can get more instant information by access to asking the right question to Google.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do that all the time.
Which means as software developers, you're actually not having the internet. You're limiting your ability to have knowledge. Like, it's-
Adam runs into a different problem when he types in, how do you can you do my job? And he doesn't get the
And
results he
Google-
wants.
Well, Google
They-
probably
Google
can
tries.
do your job.
Google tries.
Google does
Google
try.
try.
Not
So-
as helpful as you think.
Porn sites come up
Often.
consistently when he
Yeah,
does
what are you
that.
searching?
Can you-
actually?
Biggest, longest.
Can you do my
hardest,
job?
Fastest.
None of which,
Strongest.
none of which,
Daft Punk.
none of which explain Adam. So it was awesome that you had. I mean, would you recommend other people like going to check out China?
I think that as a lot of Americans don't travel. And I think that if you have the means to travel and the time, that you should absolutely do it.
Like
because
people were
different
super cool to
cultures-
you, and
I probably would have been a slightly different experience if I didn't have a translator there.
or
with us.
tattoos.
Well, I actually think the tattoos would help because then maybe they'd be afraid of me and like point me in the right direction. Or point me in the wrong direction. Who knows? But I would say
You couldn't understand him either way.
I
so
don't know what the hell's going on.
Oh, go this way. Okay.
Well, actually, quick funny story. I was buying a bag of candy, a big bag of candy
You
to
gotta
bring
be
back.
careful with that crap.
Yeah.
Some of that's weird.
It was like fruit preserves and all sorts of
Wrapped
shit.
in
and I can't
seaweed
read any of
guts.
it, so I'm just like grabbing it. But I had this whole bag, and I walk up to the register, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to communicate with this lady, but she knows what I want because I'm at the register, so I'm just gonna pay for it. Well, it turns out that
It was $1 million fair candy.
no, she wouldn't ring me up, and I was like, "What's like?" And I'm trying to like communicate, like, I
You
know
just
nothing.
posted hand
and she
signals.
knows-
Did you have
so I'm
money
just
out even? Like,
yeah, I had
You were like
money
this.
out.
You were like, ni hao.
Ni hao, shay shay,
Bill Bong. No, what's the word for Bill?
Fapiao,
Fapiao?
but I didn't know it yet.
Fapiao?
I didn't know that word yet. So
You saw the name tag and you're like, Fapio?
yeah,
It's
No.
weird that she was named Fapio.
and we're literally just staring at each other because I have no idea what else to
and
do.
she doesn't get
She
that
doesn't-
you.
Well, she did get it, but I didn't get what the situation was. So when you go to a candy store, you got to put it in a bag, you weigh it, and then you get a sticker or something. You take it to the register, or they weigh it for you at the register. Well, this place didn't wait for you at the register, so you had to weigh it yourself and put a sticker on it. I had no idea. So eventually, some
Did
lady
she-
comes.
Oh, but the chick behind the register didn't point to you to go do that.
This is a big grocery store. It wasn't a candy store. It's a big grocery
right,
store.
right.
And the candy section's way at the front. And so everybody's who works there is kind of looking at me, and like people are trying to come into the line.
Fucking
and
Pecho.
She's sending them away. And so finally this lady comes up, who works there, grabs the bag from her and walks away. And I was like, so like,
I guess
I
no?
can't even ask
You're going to
am I
jail.
not gonna
You're
get
going
candy?
to jail.
And like I wait for, and she's just like kind of does this, so I'm like, okay, I should wait. And then 5 minutes later, a lady comes back with 2 bags, both with stickers on them, sealed. And I was like,
You get discount.
No,
Why 2 bags?
I think maybe I
Did she
overfilled
split
the
it?
bag. I think she split it.
She's like Americans.
Fat
I wanna
Americans.
know
Fat
how-
Americans.
Exactly. I want to know what the 2 ladies talked about when you walked away, dude.
Yeah, and
Fucking
so
fat white guy.
I paid for it and walked out, but it was that was when I realized like without a translator I'd be fucked. Like I could not
Really, there was
communicate with her
there was
at
a
all.
huge.
There was
commu-
no way for me to say anything because
What the hell is
I don't know. Like,
you have birds.
in what situation would he go to Beijing and need the universal
kind
eagle
of-
symbol? What would-
Eagle?
That's a
Instantly
duck.
eagle.
That's a duck symbol, right?
Yeah.
I love how you both went different ways with it.
No.
I could have meant anything with this.
I think that's some kind of
Is
pigeon.
that what you're thinking? Like he goes into a restaurant, he'd be like, "I'd like the duck,
I'm
please."
flapping my hands. By
I
the
would
way,
have got
for
a
people not
sparrow
watching.
if I would have done that. All right.
Oh my god!
So
They
good
might have
stuff.
brought it out. They might have brought you a sparrow out and handed it to
I
you.
would
She's
have
like,
liked
Okay,
it.
I do have a serious
Why a
question.
serious question also? How serious is your question?
probably more than yours.
Actually,
Mine is serious too.
scale,
All right, go ahead.
scale of 1 to 10.
8.
Adam. Oh,
I'm gonna give mine a 5. You go.
Like, okay. Shit, maybe I should have said an 8.
Okay,
it better be better than his 5.
bar.
Jack will judge.
Adam, say it.
Is it a
Adam,
joke?
you'll never get another one again if it's
Is it a joke?
How advanced were their toilets there? Like, did they have the
That's
I'm
a solid.
actually-
That's
I'm
a solid
actually-
6.
Like,
That's
do they
not
have
an 8.
the,
That's
okay,
a 6.
I know.
I'm gonna give you a
Like, do
6.
they have the crazy public ones that will literally like strip you down and wash your balls?
No, like the ones that you have to like straddle like a horse, like it's like a reverse toilet.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you meant the one that cleans itself when you walk out.
Well,
that's in
that
Europe.
they have that here
It
too.
sprays
They
it
have that- they have
down
that
and
in
you
the
walk
States,
out?
But like
Okay.
I've heard a lot about it, the water that they can spray up your butt.
Yeah, tell us about
Okay,
taking
so
a,
there's
taking a dump
no
in China.
bidets.
The bidet.
No bidets. And I actually was lucky enough
Did
to
you
only
use-
have to take a dump in my hotel room, which has a pretty standard toilet.
Okay.
But if you hadn't-
public restrooms that I've been in, they have standard urinals, and then like
The
a lot of
hole?
places in the world, they have
I've
the
done
hole.
that.
There's
I've
no
done that.
toilet. It's just it looks like a urinal in the ground.
Yeah,
Does yours-
foot
did-
stands. Yeah.
Literally, because when I went to
Paris,
I
that's
did
how it
like
is.
I did like
What happens if you miss?
6 or 8 weeks in
You
Europe.
Someone's
miss.
cleaning it up.
You miss.
But I did 6 or 8 weeks in Europe and had not worked out and squatting while pooping for like just
30
stand
minutes?
There.
That's-
Stand there for
that's my
like think
standard
about how
time.
long you sit on the toilet at home when you're playing your phone and you're like your shit.
You're not fucking
has
around there, though.
extended
Yeah,
though.
you're-
Like,
there's-
but I'm saying like if you just think okay, I was on the toilet this morning for like 10 minutes this morning. Just I was checking some emails and I was pooping. It was a leisure poo. But now it's like I fucking got to get this out. This is my thighs are burning.
The aiming was my big thing. Like, and I did what Jay did. I waited every time when I was in Paris till I was back in the hotel room.
And I'm surprised because the food was delicious, but it's so different from our food that I didn't have to I didn't have
it out?
emergencies. Like,
So
I
your
gotta
stomach
go.
didn't like
My
blow
stomach
up.
was like, oh,
You
okay,
spent 2 or
just
3 weeks
fucking
prepping
seahorse.
with
You
Panda.
just ate the shit we just ate, dude. You're
Seahorse? You had seahorse?
I ate deep fried seahorse. I ate deep fried scorpion. I ate duck.
Scorpion.
Scorpion.
Did it look like it?
Yeah, it was a full on scorpion.
No.
Yeah. I ate duck feet skin. Because when we ate the duck, we ate pretty much the entire thing. I ate duck liver,
The
duck
skin's
heart.
actually pretty good, though.
Yeah, the duck feet skin was, I think it might have been pickled, and it was delicious. And duck hearts taste like fucking steak, just so you know.
But they're
Eat 'em.
small.
They're,
Okay,
yeah, they
that-
look like little baby
Okay.
black bananas.
I've
This is-
had that,
this-
and I didn't think so.
this segues-
That's how they try to get me to eat it. They're like, it's like steak.
Now,
Jack.
did they tell
Wait,
you what that
wait.
was before you ate it?
No, let's get
This-
to let's get to
okay,
a,
Jason's
segues
question.
perfectly into my question, which you will be the judge of which one's more serious. At any time when you were out there eating, did you see something that is like super taboo? Like, did you? Because I've heard that they actually serve.
Yours is an 8.
What do you mean?
You're
I
stupid.
I've heard that-
dog?
Yeah.
Toilet was a 6.
So
I've heard that legitimately, you go to a restaurant and you will see that on a menu.
That's
in all
Korea.
the menus that we went, or all the restaurants we went to, I never saw anything like that on a,
That
on
you-
a
that would
menu.
be taboo here.
That would
Like
be taboo.
baby.
Well, scorpion.
Baby.
That's not a taboo. To
Human
me,
baby.
that would be uncommon, but not taboo.
Baby's an exception.
Baby fetus.
I had only heard dog being a case in some Korean villages, kind of like.
And honestly,
And probably Beijing
it's-
is probably like well developed at this point. To
And,
Beijing,
and
that's
here,
what I've
here's
heard.
the other thing too. And I'm sure you guys have heard this from the news, but we should all start to learn Chinese because that country is fucking
taking over.
developing. Like
Yeah.
you go to Beijing and you look around, and everywhere you look, there's a crane building a new building. Like it is just is blowing.
But like
up.
crazy modern. Like
Yeah, I mean, like, I was expecting to go to China and I don't know, definitely not a third world country, but be in a country that wasn't as developed as the States.
you
and
can
honestly,
admit you were thinking you'd pass some rice patties.
I-
with the
I
hats.
w-
no,
I was.
which you can.
Yeah, and I'm sure in the
fucking
country,
China's
it's
huge. Let's
yeah.
talk about that first.
It's huge.
It's a
A 20,000 mile
It's big.
wall. I'm guessing it's pretty decent.
But even,
size.
but I mean, like it really, you know, like you walk down any given street in the city, and it's really not that much different than the U.S.
it's got more people.
just
Well,
smaller
yeah, a lot of
people.
more people,
Smaller.
and because a lot more people in a smaller space, you end up with a lot of people who don't really think too much about personal space.
do they do that thing where they like literally cram you into the subway? Did you experience
No,
that?
I never
That's
experienced that. I took the
Tokyo.
Beijing
Okay.
Beijing subway was actually really nice, but I was with some people who don't take it, and they were like, the reason why we don't take it is because
They get
during rush
groped.
hour it's super packed, and we
Wait.
weren't during rush hour.
Would I get groped? Do you think?
I've only
yeah,
read
you're
stories of
pretty, I mean,
women.
you're like what 5'8",
5'8",
5'8". Yeah, you're
Were
pretty
you
tall.
I'd get
were you
groped, so
tall?
I
I
would
was
get
gonna ask
tall.
you. Were you like Godzilla height?
I was pretty tall.
Godzilla. That's such a
That's so-
poor reference.
No, it isn't because I used to joke with my. Okay, one.
It's a
so this is out
Japanese
here.
reference,
I have
isn't it?
I have Japanese friends
Whatever.
and Asian friends,
Whatever.
but I used to joke all the time. I'd go over and then I'd be like, "Oh, you so tall, Godzilla."
That's good. That's accurate. That's what they sound like.
I was
There's
pretty
got
tall.
to be like a minority rights group out there somewhere listening to this and just gonna legally
Fucking
screw
shit
us.
their pants.
I've now. Hey, look, I didn't do the Indian voice, so
What?
I've only hit 2 so far. Right?
First of all, screw us out of what?
Our rating on iTunes.
Pacifico
our
sponsor?
Our
Yeah,
ratings on
what?
iTunes.
Hey, if you're gonna come after us, let's get us in the
So,
news.
so you
Let's
recommend
get Nerdtastic in the news.
It's a cool place to visit.
I would recommend that if you were going to China, I've never been anywhere else but Beijing, but if you're going to China, go to a city like Beijing because there's probably a better chance that people speak English. There's probably
you didn't experience that, but probably.
Yeah, probably. Well, I mean, if you're gonna go like to the actually, we went to this place called the Silk Street Market, which is exactly like the place you go to buy like fake. Like
you get a
Gucci
suit?
and I didn't get a suit, but I thought about it.
Did you get your girl a bag? Did you
I
get
didn't
like
get her
a
bag,
gift?
but I got her. Well, here's the thing: is I don't really believe in all the designer shit. So
Who
I
cares?
don't
It's like 90% off.
She's like, Jason Pecho, I do. I believe in Gookie.
I want that
I want
Gucci.
Gookie. I want
Gookie.
Gookie.
I want Gookie.
Well, the best thing was
In Channel?
at Silk Street. At Silk Street, they have all the fake stuff, and each place has their own like store/cube. And there's a Ferrari store.
No, there
And
isn't, dude.
But no, it's not
But
Ferrari.
it's Ferrari clothing, and it's not Ferrari. It's Ferrari.
Oh, I
Now,
trust
how about
Ferrari.
electronics? Did you see any fake iPads and
Ferrari
iPhones?
is
Absolutely.
the pirate.
Did you get one?
No, I didn't. But I thought about it. I just
From a
didn't want to bring it
development
home.
standpoint, I'd wonder, like, did they tell you about that? Like, maybe bring it back in the States, you'd run into issues buying any of this crap?
No, here's the thing. Like electronics, I don't trust the cheap ones. You know.
Well, I thought maybe you buy as a gimmick. Like,
Yeah.
you being a developer for iPhones might be like, I'm buying the iPhone with
the-
the double E on the end.
Yeah.
E-pad.
Well, my buddy Tim.
I can't even come up with a.
My buddy Tim bought an Android thing at a California like computer convention thing, and it was like a fake. This is probably like 3 years ago, and it was like a fake Android tablet, but it ran Android, and it could barely run Angry Birds. And this is like at the time when decent Android phones are out, and so if you're getting
You
shit
didn't wanna
that
get-
horrible
you didn't wanna
in
get that.
California, I just rather browse.
What we didn't ask him, did you go to Foxconn?
Where's Foxconn? What is that?
Somewhere in China, so I'm sure you walk by.
Foxconn's where they make the iPhone and people kill themselves over it.
What?
They had those
No, I've
safety
never-
nets, the
Here's
friendly nets.
A question for you guys.
How serious?
Which? I don't know.
Are
I'd
we,
like
are we
to- I'd
really
like to
with
do
you two?
this. I'd like
Are we
to do
doing
this.
numbers now?
I would give this a 5.
Okay, cool. I'll buy that.
Again, I'm going to go with a 5. It's serious, not trying to be funny, but it's also not the most entertaining bit of the podcast. Which country is more populated, higher population, India or China?
China.
Per square
You're gonna say, but it's
kilometer?
gonna be India because everybody expects it to be China.
Per square
No,
kilometer?
I
What's our?
actually I didn't look at the, I didn't
just-
look at the number.
just
I say
population.
India. I say India.
Population, China, India.
I think China.
In Canada isn't involved at all.
We can hold on. Let me check.
China actually has population control on the number of
Hold on,
kids
let
you
me
can have.
bring up
India does
Canada.
not.
I'm gonna say Canada's low on the list, so
Hold on.
I just
Pause.
wanted to know if it was.
Pause,
in
please.
there.
Okay, continue. Canada is now one of the options. Canada, China, or India.
I'm gonna go India.
India, China.
Man, now that I know that Canada's in, I don't know.
You gonna
I
pick
was-
the Great White North?
Adam.
I mean, there are
do it,
there are
Adam.
brothers
Do it,
to the
Adam.
north. I've got to say Canada.
Fair enough. The answer is China.
Damn it!
With 1.3 trillion? Billion people, sorry.
7 billion people on
Billion.
Earth.
Trillion would be
Somehow
insane.
they've accumulated more than the total world population.
I'm an idiot.
Now, where's Canada?
Hold on. I'm going to get to that. So India is very close. So
Can we just say where Canada is before you tell what India
No,
is?
1.3 billion in China, 1.2 billion in India, and 33 million in Canada.
India will pass it.
Wow, I was close.
They're
though.
climbing. They're getting there.
And by the way, the national anthem of Canada is "Oh Canada."
What's
Duh.
our population?
Ours?
Yeah.
I can
Three-
sing the first
Three,
three lines.
300
of
400 million. I bet you.
350, I think.
I think it's gone up. I think it's 400.
295.
We're in the
million.
millions.
By the way, I'm digging the new part of the podcast where I just constantly have Wikipedia.
200
no, that's what I said. It blows me away. You just have it up all the time.
295 million.
315.
Fuck balls.
15.
Wait, what'd you guess?
I
Million.
said 400.
I was closer.
Million.
What'd you guess? Jack, what'd you guess?
I didn't.
I was close.
I guessed 350.
I was still blown away that it was probably
I was
just millions compared to the billions.
was
So
35
you got
off.
1.3 billion. They have
I was
almost
20 off.
a billion more people than us. Almost like
But like
990.
when you get into that
When the
number,
zombie-
it's like,
Actually,
no, no.
I'm
it's
sorry.
like
Actually, I do-
1,900 million.
No. When the zombie epidemic comes over, don't be in those countries.
World War Z. Did you read it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
it's
no,
absolutely-
I
best
listened.
audio- best audiobook
I listened
ever.
To it. It was a great audiobook.
Jay, the population of China is 1.35 billion. So they actually
okay.
are
Over
over
a
a billion
billion more.
people more than us.
Wow.
But what did we say about Canada again? I can't remember.
33 million. So this is 1 billion, 320
300
million people more.
Barely. I was close.
insane.
Long
That's a
story.
shitload. Now, what I was saying to Jay, China has population control.
We
You literally can only have a certain number
Yeah.
of children. India doesn't, and that's been talked
Yeah.
about. India far
Now,
surpassing what China even has.
What's the accuracy
With even
of
less
India's
space.
census? Like, is it like accounting for like that crazy rural, like, you know, like the people that don't even have access to things that count you?
I don't know. Is it counting?
Like people?
like a guy on the corner going like this.
I don't know. This
Click-
is what
clicking
happened.
the counter.
This is what
Hey, if
happens. when we
Jesus made it
spend-
to the census, the mountain people will
when we
make it.
spend 40 minutes talking before the podcast drinking beer. This is what happens. Okay, guys.
All right.
This is
so,
what fucking happens.
Okay, last,
But Jason's
last,
pulling him.
last bit of Wikipedia. What is the least populated country
Guam.
in the world?
Guam,
The least.
Banana Republic,
And what is
Hawaii.
And what is that's not a country.
Tree, dude.
Congo,
Uh,
Dominican
country-
Republic of Congo.
No,
The
it's,
former
it's-
Dominican
it's
Republic
it's an
of
island.
Congo.
It's an island,
Yeah.
probably.
Tahiti.
Bora Bora. Is that a country? No, Bora
Belize.
Bora isn't. Belize,
Canada.
maybe? Yeah, something like that.
Canada.
Washington, D.C. Isn't that a country?
No, you idiot.
What is it, Jay?
I'll give you.
Give me top 5.
Okay, fair enough.
2. Give me
That
one.
one's
Give me
awesome.
one option.
Hold on.
That
I know.
one's awesome.
I know. Okay, so
You cheated.
coming in at number 5, one being the least
Whoa,
populated.
whoa. Back up the rules.
Yeah, so
He can't
number
process that.
Yeah. Okay, so number 5 is the
Drinking beer in a
5th least populated, working up to number 1, which is
Okay.
the least populated.
I thought we were going to give us multiple choice and we were going
New
to Guinea.
New is what it's called. It's
NEW?
In New Zealand.
In New Zealand, population of 1,414
Wait,
people.
we're telling
New!
countries.
Yes. These are
Countries.
countries.
Wait, this is a country in New Zealand?
Yes.
It just
I
says
don't buy that.
I think it's maybe a country that's.
How peer reviewed is this Wikipedia page?
I want to say that this
there
is
a,
governed by New Zealand.
because I'm literally
Yeah.
So
logging
it's probably-
on to that same page
it's
and
probably
changing
separate-
it right
It's like
now.
Puerto Rico.
Is there a thing
Yeah.
on there that says citation needed?
Because I'm literally logging onto that page
No.
and changing it right now.
Okay, so
because that's how
number
Wikipedia
5.
works.
Number 5 is new. Number 4 is Tokalo.
It's also New Zealand.
1,411.
I'm guessing these are islands.
Yeah.
You New Zealand.
Number
You don't get to
3.
do this.
This one's awesome.
Number 3, Vatican City at
Is a
836.
Vatican City is its own contained entity in Italy.
Fuck you, Vatican.
Number
City.
2, Cocos Islands,
Oh,
which is I guess near Australia.
Top
Coco's
3.
2D was made there.
Funny.
That's not true.
Funny and terrible joke. 550 people, and coming in at number 1 is the Pitcairn Islands, which is near the UK, with a population of 48.
That was the most disappointing top 5 list ever, except for
No,
Vatican
City was awesome.
Except for
Here,
Vatican
let me
City.
name.
No, look how many are in
let
there.
me name
Vatican
5
City's
places
third.
you
There's
don't
836 people who live in Vatican City full time.
Okay, here's another one.
Is one of those the
This is
Pope?
fun times. How about this? We know number 1 is China. We know number 2 is India. What's number 3?
Canada.
Russia.
No, not at all.
Remember, 1.35.
Pakistan.
1.2. And then what's number 3?
I don't even know other countries. Australia.
Any other country?
Pakistan.
I love it.
Pakistan is Jay's vote. I can tell you. Don't look, Jack.
No, yeah,
Oh,
no,
shoot,
no, don't.
shoot. Hold on.
I'm not looking. Let me see.
Pakistan is number 6.
Ireland.
Ireland is not,
It's not on
anywhere
the list.
close to
Is it
being
ranked
on
above
there.
or below?
It's too,
above or below
too far up
Canada?
the list.
Country.
Russia's very big in
Yeah,
area.
but I think it's
But not everybody lives in Siberia is a problem. Like
That's debatable.
math.
You're not talking about the continent. right?
math debatable.
Who said Russia?
Well, that was my first.
Knucklehead over
Yes.
here. It's
Is
obviously
that it?
Canan-
Fun-
Canada.
Soviet Union.
I'm trying to find Russia.
I think we need to cut you off. Why don't you put the cap back on that mirror?
I was just gonna say. No. Country.
This is good. It's like trivia.
Let's just play the game. Name 15 countries. Just
By the
see if
way-
you guys can do that.
Latvia.
I bought a geek trivia game.
That's not the
I
answer.
should bring it in.
Russia is number 9.
Bullshit. I got worse.
Okay.
Japan.
Japan.
I said that.
Japan.
No, I'm with you. We're at the same time.
Japan is number 10.
Holy shit!
Balls.
USA.
Australia.
USA.
USA. USA.
Australia.
USA.
No, it's not Australia.
God, I
Fuck
love
that.
when
It's
somebody says USA, dude.
USA.
USA takes the number 3 spot.
Does it?
United
Wait,
States.
wait.
USA.
It goes 1.3,
1.35,
1.2, 315. Holy shit!
Yes. Should India and China ever team up, the rest of us, we're all screwed.
No, I tell you, if
No.
the zombie World
not
War Z,
true.
World War Z fucks us because it starts in China.
I know.
That's the problem.
But
Okay,
that
what-
would be 2.8
Yeah, but
billion.
half of
Math
these,
is
half
terrible.
of these are
Your math
countries
is-
that don't even count.
But we'll get them
really-
in. We'll get
they
'em
really
in.
don't.
There's
They
some
really-
warriors in there.
All right. So
What's the
what?
population
There's
of
more
the world?
people in Nigeria than
7
Canada.
billion.
Okay.
I was way off.
You're way off.
Here's the top 15, and then we're done with this.
I don't know if we
China,
are.
India, United States, Indonesia, number 4, Brazil, number 5,
Wait.
Pakistan, number 6,
Indonesia's
Nigeria,
right below US?
Bangladesh
You're not even giving
is
us
number
any
8,
chance to
9 is
process
Russia,
this.
10 is Japan, 11 Mexico,
10 is Japan.
12 is the Philippines, 13 is Vietnam, 14 is Ethiopia, 15 is Egypt.
Ethiopian food is so good.
Germany comes in at 16.
Let's just have a moment and go, holy shit.
How little we know about the census.
This world is rough.
All right, so I'm going to keep the humor going. Fucking alpine sledding is what it's
Nice.
called.
Bringing it back.
Okay, is what it's called, and that's cement tobogganing downhill. If anybody on the show finds himself in Tennessee, in the Great Smoky Mountains, which is beautiful,
Googling it right now.
Jason, pull up Gatlinburg, Tennessee. So Tennessee, Smoky Mountains is beautiful. Even if you're not in anything else, Smoky Mountains are just gorgeous on the East Coast. So if you go over to Tennessee, Gatlinburg, there's a part of Gatlinburg that goes up the mountain, and it's called Uber Gatlinburg, and you go up a huge gondola to the top. And at the very top, you take that up. Jason's pointing at a picture. I'll post images. You get to the top. At the top of the mountain,
Uber Gatlinburg.
there's other. You could take other lifts to the top for skiing when it's season. If not, they have this alpine sledding. You take lifts to the top, and they have 2 runs side by side, which is cement. Basically bobsledding, which is exactly probably what you did.
I'm totally watching this
with
video.
the same cart. So the first time I went, I was probably 7 or 8. My sister was 3 or 4 with my dad. And we made this almost a family, like once a year we'd go up there. They get up there and the guy's explaining to my dad, and I still remember this vividly because I've been probably 20 times since. He gets up there and he's like, sir, why don't you let the kids go first? And you follow them down.
In case they fall off, you can find them.
And they said the same thing they said to Jay. Watch your speed. You hit corners. Don't go too fast. And what? I'm like, whatever. And I'm like really young. So, and I weigh like 25 pounds at the time. So I fly down this mountain. Me and my sister fly down. We're like, sweet. This is awesome. My God, this is the most amazing thing ever as a kid. I mean, dude, it's better than a roller coaster because you can control it. Are you watching alpine sledding?
Yeah, this is literally a Great Gatsbyburg place.
Uber Gatlinburg.
Great
Big
Gatsby.
That's it, dude. No, that's it. That's awesome.
exactly like it is
That's
in
it,
China,
right? Yeah,
except
same
it's aluminum.
Less trees and more wall.
You can die more.
You can die more. You go faster.
So Papa Geckler,
Griswold.
who's coming in tonight to LA even.
What's
Coming
up,
hot.
Papa G.
Coming hot.
Papa, he explains to my dad, who's probably at this time same height, 6'4", probably about 230, 240, gets on. He tells him, you weigh a little bit more. So, and I remember telling him this, on the corners, slow down a bit more because your weight and inertia will just take over. My dad's like, whatever.
Yeah, fuck you. I
I was like,
know.
he
I
did his
know
whole thing.
science.
He did his smirk.
I know
He did his
science.
smirk, and I know my dad, and it was like, I was a fucking cop in the army. I can do whatever I want.
I know inertia.
Me and my sister go down, and they told him, like, don't
Physics.
worry, we have
Minimum wage
people
turd.
at the base who will take your kids. And hold them for when you come down. So we go down. My dad's like, I'm right behind you.
His name is Cletus.
So we're waiting.
Got a van out back.
We're
There's
waiting.
Candy.
Me and my sister are still waiting.
No Papa G.
A fucking empty cart comes down, and because I can't remember his name, Cletus gets a call on the old radio. They're like, they whisper something, and the guy's face just turns red. And he's looking at me and my sister, and he's like, "Wait here!" And he goes running up the fucking mountain.
There's been an incident.
As it turns out, on turn 5, Papa G took a corner a little too rough. Launched his ass outside the track.
hot.
That track you saw? Launched his ass outside the cart onto the grass. Dude, bypassed the track altogether and was like laying in dirt.
That's amazing.
They had to
actually-
send another cart down before he finally came down to catch us.
He
dude.
actually did a track-to-track transfer with the one in China.
It was amazing.
Yeah, really. That's that's a big transfer.
So,
Well,
Adam.
I appreciate you trying to tie the stories
I don't know if
together.
I'm okay with the fact that the default look you give me is one eye closed and the other almost closed.
Hey,
Be
Hey,
careful
guys.
going down the alpine
It's not
sled.
racist.
hey guys.
Oh. thought you were gonna
I have
say
a
something
question for you.
You missed.
Okay.
Last week we missed you while we talked about the Ouya.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we did.
Got hands on.
Oh,
He did.
really?
Yeah, he got a
Who-
dev kid.
do
He
you-
played
you
with.
got a
Ow!
dev kit?
His
You
buddy
didn't
did.
get
I don't
that
have his buddy did.
hands-on.
I picked it up.
No, he
That
had the
was it.
controller
That
in
was
his
the
hand.
end of the hands-on.
I didn't turn it on.
No,
That was.
he didn't play it. He
literally-
literally picked it up.
Was I wrong?
Uh-huh.
Was
No,
my,
no, you're right,
Was
you're
my
right.
statement
You're
wrong?
right. You were absolutely 100% correct.
So, Jay, question.
So, have you guys heard of the fair use wordless rant from GDC?
No.
So there's a
I
session.
need a Crickets app.
That's a cricket.
Just a sound. You just need a sound.
And I need the small violin.
Yeah. So GDC, for those who
Are in the know.
are in the know, or are not, it means Game Developers Conference. It's a conference that took place last week in San
Giant
Francisco.
damn China.
It is basically developers gone wild, but just man boobs.
My newbies.
But basically, The conference is like a whole bunch of lectures and talks that developers from within the industry give to other developers about certain topics within the industry, and then at night everybody goes out and parties and it's a lot of fun. So there's a session called I can't remember the exact name, but it's all about like it's basically 6 10-minute rants from 6 developers, and then one of those rants was a guy who basically he called it fair use, and he took I think 4 clips. And one of the clips was the Killzone 4 team showing Killzone 4 on Jimmy Fallon and sort of juxtaposing the gameplay with what the developers are saying. And in that specific example, he was saying the new PS4 it gives us 8 megabytes of RAM. We are going to be able to do so much more with characters, so much more with gameplay. And meanwhile, they're just showing a first-person shooter. And they're just repeating that over and over. And then, so the whole idea of the rant was like all this next gen technology.
You're not pushing it.
Well, it's not even you're not pushing it. What is new? And so I'm curious to know from you guys. And I think it's really interesting because that rant happened at a GDC talk, which GDC still is predominantly a console conference because that's where it came from. And I don't know how it was received. From what I've seen on Twitter, it looked like it was.
Were you in the audience watching this?
I wasn't in the audience.
Okay.
I actually just saw it today, but it was really interesting to me because there's certain developers asking these questions like, what is the next step in gaming? And graphics are great and they're awesome, but that's not the next step in gaming. That just is a more visceral experience, but doesn't mean that it's a better game or more immersive or So I'm curious what your opinions are.
Did we talk about this a bit?
I'm sure. We talked about everything. We're out of topics. If you're listening to this episode, just go back and listen to number 2, and you'll catch up again.
And it's not. And it's not on throwing because it's actually awesome he brought that up. But I want to say we
should post a link to this on our page.
We've talked.
Do you have
about,
it? I'm sure you didn't post it to Evernote because you're a lazy bastard. So
I didn't even think about it until.
Why don't you log into Facebook and post something for us?
I'll fucking do it. All right.
Tweet about it.
I'll tweet
the
that
Twitter
shit.
king. We missed you.
We
go to Instagram.
I'm reaching back into our old glory days, but we did talk about the future, what we think the future of gaming, and particularly I think in context of virtual reality stuff. And we talked about that giant,
the Battlefield experience they created. Yes. You probably weren't around for that, and that thing's amazing, by the way.
It's a really good question.
Oh, the ball?
Yeah.
When he was in when he was in the giant
The
room
dome,
and
the
getting
big dome.
shot by like
Paintballs.
guns and like the ground that's rollers, so you literally can walk in 360. You
Oh
ever
yeah,
see
no,
that?
I've seen that at
saw
GDC 3 years ago. I saw it.
It's awesome.
You saw the video of
No, I
the
didn't see
guy, of the guy
video.
doing it.
I didn't see. I saw the actual dome, like ball.
A European TV show went out of their way to try to create the most realistic simulator they possibly could, and it consisted of this dome with real lighting. 180. What was it? 180. I don't want to rehash it.
I think it was 180, but it followed you whichever direction.
Right.
You went.
It was tied to your vision on the goggles that you were wearing, but it was in a giant dome, so you had full vision top to floor. The floor was designed with rollers, so you could walk and 360 if you wanted to.
Oh, okay.
The gun actually had a motion control sensor, so it actually picked up everything you were doing with the gun. They also had multiple paint guns firing pellets within the room that picked up. Actually, it was playing Battlefield 3, I believe.
I believe so.
That picked up tracking of when they would fire and actually would fire at you. I mean, it's pretty surreal.
Yeah.
I mean, experience, but
The original question, the question this guy poses is what's next? What's exciting? What's like? Are we just now iterating the same thing and making that like more powerful?
Yeah.
There's some interesting things being done. Like, I think the question here is more about is what's next in the hands of the developer or the hardware maker? And I think there's not, with the exception of Nintendo, there's not a lot of attempts at revolutionizing the hardware.
Right.
Now, people have made attempts, right? The Move is an attempt. I think Kinect was a really strong attempt. People are dabbling. But hardware is kind of like we need to make something that serves to everybody, and then the true innovation is happening with the software developers.
Yeah.
So there's still companies out there. There are still to this day companies out there who are committed to breaking the mold. I think what Bungie is attempting with Project Destiny, it is crazy in scope, and it's interesting. And even though, yes, it's a first-person shooter, it is going to change and possibly redefine what we view as a first-person shooter.
Okay.
Valve, same thing. Valve's another strong company that is continually innovating in the software.
Mm-hmm.
For me, though, this all comes down to one simple thing, which is what's next is something that I still to this day think is missing from most, not all, but most games, which is story. I still to this day think that gameplay is paramount over story. And I think that the future of gaming for me is where that starts to even out. Not story taking precedent, because these have to be fun experiences, but where they start to even out, where just as much emphasis on story is placed on the gameplay. Now, I think an example of where those are switched, where story over gameplay, is The Walking Dead. We've talked about that, right?
Yep.
An amazing, amazing experience, made people cry. Don't say anything, I haven't finished it yet. I think the future of gaming is when those are on equal ground. You give just as much precedent to story as you do to the actual gameplay.
I think it's going to be very tough from the people who make the real decisions at the studio, who are the main developers, because of the top, say, 3 money makers right now in their model and what makes the money.
Yeah.
They give let's give 2 examples of something I'm familiar with. They give Treyarch and Infinity Ward these huge budgets. Unfortunately, the argument can be made they're not giving them the huge budgets for the story. I mean, Jason, you always say, you're like, that story never. One of the versions is, I think Treyarch's in particular, is really all over the place. You can't follow it. You're like, okay, this is too hodgepodgey for me in story, because they know the money that they make on that game is in the multiplayer experience. And I'd say the same would be maybe the case with an MMO, with World of Warcraft, that has no story. So it's like, how do you convince? At what point can we start? Because I'm with you, Jay. I mean, at what point can we start convincing society and some of these people who play these and who buy games to focus more on that, so it gets money?
The thing that you say about these games that are making a ton of money in the online play, and it's the kind of constantly, and again, Black Ops 2, it's the same game mode. I'm still going on and playing against people, but it's kind of something different. I'm always playing against different people, and there's different challenges and stuff like that. Like that, once you beat the story, a lot of games that don't have a big online presence, like once you beat it, I'm done. I'm not going to subscribe.
Which is the problem with story games, right?
Like when you look at like the games that are making the most money,
I'll get it on Redbox for $1.
Yeah, like so I'll get it, I'll play it,
again.
I'll beat it, I'm done, I'm out. Like I don't need to subscribe. I'm not going to subscribe. And like so, the thing
you
I was
want them
literally
to
just
buy
thinking
it.
about was like the Fallouts that had a lot of DLC. How did those games do? As far as like they didn't do well enough. I mean,
I don't know.
I don't either. But like the Halo, like you buy the game and not Halo in specific because it does have a good, solid, heavy online play. But like the games that miss that, you just go, you play the game, and then there's no other place to add revenue for a studio.
Sure.
You know.
To me, I think the question is, where's the innovation? That sounds like what the heart of this thing was. Where's the innovation?
That's really what it is. It's not about.
So I think you can argue across the board, looking at the game industry, that's an amazing thing to say.
Yeah.
Where's the innovation? You cannot argue that the Call of Duty franchise, there has been no innovation. Why? You don't need it because it's this incredible moneymaker. So keep doing what you're doing. But there's no innovation whatsoever. There's tweaking. Hey, we got a new game mode. That's a tweak. That's not an innovation.
Same could be said for Halo. Like
yeah,
the same could be
absolutely.
said
I
for
completely
Halo.
agree with you. I think, though, the funny thing is Halo does have a little bit more of a stronger story, but you could argue that the gameplay maybe isn't quite as good as the Call of Duty. I mean, for first-person shooter. I think the point is, if Call of Duty has nailed it, like, hey, we got this down, we've got the formula, then why not start making the other half of the game, the co-op, up to that same level? We've nailed gameplay. We've nailed it. We sell hundreds of millions of copies of this thing. I don't know if that's right. $100 million
That's fine.
worth.
We'll quote you.
Every time this one comes out, once a year. That is crazy. Let's bank on that. Okay, we know we got the money for it, clearly. Why not now say the innovation is going to be where story and gameplay are hand in hand?
Because that was the thing. I mean, and this is specifically because I know Jason.
But a story. I'm sorry.
No,
go ahead, Adam.
I was just gonna. It was a quick touch on Spec Ops. So
I just in their own right, I think their and it's so tough to use. You use the word innovation, and I it's such a big word. I could say they've as a game they've kept trying to add to keeping you around. I think they've done an amazing job by giving you so many outlets in one game. They give you Spec Ops. They give you play co-op. They give you zombies. Literally, there's so much shit in that one game you buy. It hits a big demographic of people of like, you buy it. You don't just rent it. You buy that game because you hold on to it for the year. But I also could question, too, innovation. Is story, just having a good story, innovating?
For the game industry, absolutely.
But
100% yes.
But we could all name games, I think, that had stories.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they're the rarity.
So, I went to this really heady talk too that was about disruptive innovation, and it was really interesting to me because there's a game coming out on iOS called The Drowning, and it's a first-person shooter built for touch controls, built for the mobile experience, which is like a 2-minute sessions and stuff, and it contains story. Now, it probably doesn't contain the degree of story in which you're talking about, but the talk was by the developer, like the creator of the story. Or the creator of the game, and he had this point of disruptive innovation versus sustained improvement. And sustained improvement is like this line that kind of goes up like this. And sustained improvement is okay. That's basically console games right now. Like every time a new Call of Duty comes out, it is better. There's no doubt about it. It's better, but it's only better marginally, right?
To a degree, right.
To a degree. It's a very linear line, whereas disruptive innovation is a thing like the Apple computer was, the home computer, where
It's an actual curve, like it's like a.
yeah, exactly. Before,
Well, you really fucked with it. You try to alter what you think is normal.
when disruptive innovations release, typically they don't do well right away.
Yeah.
They drop actually, and then they do this like exponential climb. And I think that is what the game industry. I don't think it needs it right now, but I think that's what the game industry is leading to. I think every industry eventually has to hit that point where it's like, what's the next big thing? And the next big thing, the first time we see it, we're gonna go,
gonna be like,
that's
eh.
fucking stupid, and then it's gonna.
I think BioShock, this new one, is a very good example. Everything I've read has been solely about how amazing the story is.
Sure.
Like exponentially amazing. To me personally, because I also think it's a beautiful looking game, so it touches on a lot of things. It's a first-person shooter with a story, with some amazing gameplay, amazing animation, things that I love. I'd be very curious to see how this does. It's getting very well received by a ton of the big YouTubers and everything I've read, so I'd be curious to see, because I think this touches on what Jason's talking about of like, even I read, it was on NPR, they had the director of the game, and in his whole thought process was really deep for the story. And what he was trying to do. Matter of fact, it was a lot deeper than most games I've ever heard, and it might go over most gamers' heads how deep of story he was trying to invent. And I think that's always going to be the fine line. And I think, Jason, you nail on the head there, dude, with that talk of, does an Activision or any publisher, big Microsoft even, who wants to take that leap of saying we're probably going to suck
Nintendo.
for a little bit? No, Nintendo kind of does.
They did. I mean, look,
And they do it on a hardware front, to be honest. I mean, their actual graphics and gameplay, hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Hardware-wise, they think, well, that's where
what
we
I'm
can
saying.
keep pushing
That's what I'm
people.
saying. Yeah.
But, man, it's so tough because gaming, and especially in our age group who are the people buying it, the 30s, are buying these games right now. Like, we're the big market for Call of Duty. We're a big generation. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's just something I've come to learn. And that's coming from my gaming friends and everything else. So it's like, how do you get down to the generation that's not there yet?
yeah.
To play devil's advocate with myself a little bit, I do think the first-person shooter genre, all involved in this recently, have done a really good job of innovating on something that was stale in the area of co-op. We've talked about this before on the show. Like, there's campaign, there's multiplayer. Those two have been successful in varying degrees on different games. And co-op is something that's really been... I mean, I would even argue the last 3 years has been, like, really starting to develop. And I think the one we've talked about before that put the linchpin on it for there's something really here is Treyarch with the zombies, with Nazi zombies. But to me, that is not... Oh, it's a little improvement. That's pretty radical. There's a whole new idea of how people play games, story-based, but do it together, that hadn't been explored and is continually to develop. And I think, the stuff that 343 has done with Halo 4 is amazing, that it's an ongoing episodic story like a television show.
I think Epic did an amazing job with Gears of War doing the co-op experience. I mean, that was huge. I mean, there was levels that you couldn't get, and that was part of the single player. That actually, in my eyes, changed even how we look at, we talk about Halo and Call of Duty, but if we can go back to even the first Gears, the idea, which was amazing, was you could play through. I could play through. I'm on level 3. Jay, come play with me. You now jumped in at level 3 where I left off, and we keep playing.
Yeah.
You were
Games don't do that. You don't leave the story arc. I just add you to the story arc,
Right.
and that's kind of that in itself is amazing that
cool.
you can do.
Well, 'cause that's the issue you have with like this if it's going to be 100% co-op, if it's going to be 100% solo, you
Sure,
can't,
sure,
you
sure,
can't
sure.
mix these things.
But
It's
they do in
but
that.
No,
That's
that's what I'm
cool.
saying. What's awesome is
Does
that
Halo do that actually? Now that I think about it, do they do something like that? Can't you play through like the single player with people?
Yeah, totally, absolutely.
Right? Can you
and
jump
can
in
stop
and out?
and start and stop and start? Like, can I
Can
play
you keep
solo,
playing?
keep going, level, and then bring in somebody else and play with me, and then continue, and then
I'm not 100% sure. I believe
How
so.
sure?
Not 100%.
Not 100%.
I think anything.
I go over 50.
that's not great.
I got to be honest with just
not great.
the prevalence of internet that's out there now for all of us. I think it's very tough for any studio to not want to give the green light to anything that's really going to embrace some kind of multiplayer aspect to it, because they see that's where the money is. And even in DLC, we all talk about that. I mean, as cheesy as it is, there's some DLC that's great. Like I thought Modern Warfare 3 did it amazing with buying the what was it, the Elite add-on, where literally they gave you a map a month. Sometimes they'd give you two maps and like 3 spec.
hard to keep
Literally,
up.
it was hard to keep up with playing all the shit that they kept giving you.
That's just
And that was
subscription, right?
impressive. Yeah, it was impressive. Or you could pay a one-time thing of like $50 add-on.
Yeah.
And you got it for the year.
That was
So-
one of the best deals.
I do you know? Are they still doing that?
No. Treyarch has tried to keep with that. They did a first pack, but they're doing it different. Like Infinity Ward said, "Hey, you're buying a subscription." Actually, Treyarch's doing it
I
too,
bought
a little
the
different.
subscription, too.
And their promise to you is they're going to give you something new every
think-
month. Treyarch was
4.
They
I think
do.
said 4 of the
They
year.
do. Yeah,
think.
Treyarch does something different with. They do packs, but the pack was pretty huge. It was like a bunch of spec ops, and then it was 4 multiplayer maps all at once instead of giving
this was
it
in
the most recent
Modern
one.
Warfare.
But you could pay for the same thing. It was like $50, and you get it for the year and whatever else.
But are they still keeping like the subscription going for Modern Warfare 3? Like,
no,
It was a whole different company. It's a whole
no,
different subscription.
Infinity.
But I mean,
Ward,
for that game.
Yeah, no. That's the thing. Infinity Ward.
No, they're
no.
done. They're done
No,
developing.
when the next I wonder if that's when Activision steps in and says, "Okay, here's the deal. Obviously, your game's gonna." Now, I have friends who still play it, but they know right up front. Cheers, Adam. They know right
Got a
up
lot
front
going on
that
here.
the fall off
Is
after the next Call of Duty comes in, it's got to be pretty huge.
But I'm curious, like, because
They don't continue to support like
we've
that.
talked about subscription-based games, in our studio, and one of the biggest challenges I think is like, when do you? If I say you can pay $50 for a year subscription, and halfway through that subscription, our game isn't able to support our players anymore because it's not making any money. What do you do? You
I
say,
don't
"Oh,
think-
sorry, here's your $25."
They're not shutting down servers.
No,
they're not
that-
saying you can't play.
that's it.
They're just done developing.
What you're talking
Well,
about is
that's what I
different.
mean.
A
It's
subscription-based thing is
you
like
got, and you got the full year. You got
it was a
one
year.
solid
You
year
paid
of
for a
development.
year of subscription.
But that's what I mean is like 6 months into that subscription, what did the
They didn't
subscription
stop.
give you?
They
though?
didn't stop.
It went
New maps and everything.
it went
And so they
every month.
did. But
Yeah.
but subscriptions are I don't know the right word, but like if you subscribed 6 months ago and I subscribe today, then I have a year from today and you have a year from today.
No,
it was,
you would-
it was
from
for
when
the
the game
year
came
till the
out.
next one comes
Yeah.
out.
Oh, okay,
We're
okay.
gonna give you this.
Yeah.
And this was the bummer about.
that makes sense.
This was the one bummer about that is I go back
Because
to
you could
Modern
buy the
Warfare.
maps separately at that point. Once it came out, if you didn't have the subscription, you could buy them all separately.
I go back to Modern Warfare 3 because I love playing. Like one of my roommates doesn't play Black Ops, doesn't really like the online, but we love fucking survival. And
it's
like,
pretty fun, yeah.
And all I want is like just come out with a new map. Just come out with one new map. Like
I think they innovated it's not an innovation as much as they've kept embracing instead of taking away. I think Halo does this too. They've just said, let's stop taking away from gamers and let's keep and that's that line. I think let's just keep adding without taking away.
what is most importantly is though that the podcast is done.
Nerdtastic. In 3